During the State of the Union address by President Barack Obama on January 28, 2014, he called on Congress to raise minimum wage from its current rate of $7.25 to a rate of $10.10 an hour. Since then, it seems that everyone has their own opinion of whether or not it is a good idea, and they have their own facts and figures to prove it. In an opinion editorial by the Dallas News, the newspaper listed reasons as to what will happen if Congress does not raise the current minimum wage. First, they said that workers will lose the incentive to work. Second, they said that that the nation will forfeit additional economic growth because low-paying workers have a low purchasing power. Finally, they said that everyone will have to pay for it in public assistance programs such as welfare and food stamps. Although Congress has yet to raise the minimum wage across the board, some states and some companies such as Gap and Old Navy have taken it upon themselves to go ahead and raise their own minimum wage. In theory, raising minimum wage sounds like a good idea. However, there are some negative economic effects that it can have on this country. I believe that if the minimum wage is raised to $10.10 an hour, first off, workers will lose incentives to get an education. Secondly, the prices of goods and services will raise, therefore raising the prices of everything. And finally, there will be a greater need for public assistance programs such as unemployment because there will be less jobs available for citizens. Throughout this speech, I will discuss the main points made by the newspaper as to what will happen if Congress does not raise the minimum wage and why I think that these points are incorrect. To begin, we will discuss how raising minimum wage will lead to workers losing the incentive to get an education. The newspaper article believes that raising the minimum wage will mean that workers will not want to work. However, I believe that if minimum wage is raised, workers are not going to want to finish their education and go to college. Richard Such of the National Bureau of Economics discussed how raising the minimum wage will result in young adults choosing to drop out of high school or not go to college. He said that this is because students will be making a greater amount of money. He says that students will look at the opportunity cost of going to school and that this will influence their decision. In this case, the opportunity cost will be driven by the higher wage that students would be making if they do not go to college or drop out of high school. If minimum wage remains low, students will be more likely to continue their education because they know that they cannot support themselves on what the current rate is or what they will want to do in the future. However, if minimum wage is raised, students will be less likely to drop out of college because they know they will be making $10.10 an hour. The second point that the Dallas News made was that the United States will lose out on additional economic benefits and growth. However, this is up for debate. When minimum wage is raised, so will the prices of goods and services, therefore making everything more expensive. A study done by Daniel Aronson and Eric French showed that the minimum wage does increase prices. Within 3 months of a wage increase of 10%, the price of food in restaurants went up 0.4 to 0.7%. In fast food restaurants, it went up at a greater rate of 1.5%. An example of this is that restaurants will have to pay their servers more. Therefore, they're going to charge their customers more for the food that they are paying for. Similarly, if retail stores are having to pay their store associates more, they're going to charge us more for shirts, pants, and so forth, because they are going to want to offset the extra cost that is to them. Along with the price of goods and services, we can also expect a decrease in the amount of jobs in the economy. The final point by Dallas News was that everyone would suffer if there was no raise in the minimum wage because we would have to pay for public assistance programs such as welfare. However, I believe that if minimum wage is raised, there will be a decrease in jobs. Therefore, more people will be collecting unemployment, which we will all be paying into. Raising the minimum wage will reduce the amount of jobs in the United States. Minimum wage gives companies an incentive to hire less workers that are more skilled because they are paying them more. In a study done by this Duke University and CFO magazine, it found that over 80% of CFOs in the retail, manufacturing, and service industries would reduce their hiring if minimum wage was raised to $10.10 an hour. The Department of Labor also backed up this theory when they looked into how the first minimum wage in 1938 affected the United States. At this time, they found that minimum wage got rid of 30,000 to 50,000 jobs when the current job market was at around 300,000 jobs. The debate between minimum wage or keep raising it or keeping it where it's at is one that will keep being a common occurrence until Congress decides what to do. When people automatically hear that they'll be making more money, they think that this is a great idea. However, they don't think about the type of economic effects that this can have on us. These negative impacts include workers losing the incentive for an education, the price of goods and services raising, and a higher increase in public assistance programs such as unemployment because there will be a less amount of jobs. A higher wage will result in a higher amount of economic problems.